In the case of milk, the industrialization of milk, which is the processing, the pasteurization, now it's ultra pasteurization, the homogenization, this has totally ruined nature's perfect food. So one of the first things we did was set up a campaign for real milk. We advocate, we try to make it possible for people to get raw, unhomogenized milk from pastured cows. And we've been very successful in this. When we started, there were 27 states that allowed this, no more than 40 sources in the whole United States. And now there's thousands of sources, and we're up to 43 states now that allow
Wow.
the farmer to provide raw milk.
Wow. Yeah, it seems like there are many parts of the world, Canada and Australia, are also very strict on this whole anti-raw milk thing. When did all this start? When did this whole demonization, in your words, the demonization of animal foods, which is just so succinctly put, because that's what we're seeing, an intense demonization of animal foods and just family agriculture, small agriculture in general, and the replacement with junk food, seed oils and all this. When did this start?
Well, the demonization of raw milk started back in the early 1900s with this push towards pasteurization, and they knew that the raw milk was more nutritious. That was obvious from early studies, but so they had to use the public safety angle and just started to say that it was dangerous to drink raw milk when people have been drinking raw milk for thousands of years.
Pasteurization. I mean, this is a big topic nowadays. A lot of people are afraid of raw milk. We've been giving our kids raw milk. Our daughter's been drinking raw milk since she was a baby. Our son's been drinking it. Well, not a baby. She had it first when she was maybe 9 months old. But our son's been having raw milk, raw cream, raw dairy since. I don't know, we actually followed your principles from your book when we for our second kid, our son, his first food was egg yolk, some raw egg yolk, some liver, then soft fish and slow cooked meat, stuff like that. So we kind of used the principles that the Weston A. Price Foundation promotes. And we've found that it's just been incredibly beneficial for their health. And there's somebody in the chat right now, the peasant's daughter, through a $10 Canadian dollar super chat. Thank you so much for the donation. Says, I just want to sincerely thank you, Sally. After my nearly 2 years of veganism, it was Weston A. Price Foundation principles that brought my physical and mental health back. Raw milk and cod liver oil in particular. So, I mean, there's a lot of people who are benefiting from this. What the heck happened? Why did we start pasteurizing milk? And what could be worse for milk than this?
It's very interesting. The first mandatory pasteurization laws were passed in, I believe it was 1913, kind of an eventful year, in New York. And the committee that passed these laws said, we're going to do pasteurization, not because it's healthier. We know that raw milk is perfectly healthy and safe, but because it will cost us less to inspect the large dairies rather than all these small dairies. And they kind of do the inspections themselves anyway. So it was a cost thing. And a few years ago, our inspector, we produce raw cheese and raw milk on our farm, and we produce our raw milk as pet milk. But she said to me, and we were good friends, she said, Sally, we just can't afford to inspect all these little dairies, the kind that you want to do. It would be way beyond our budget. So she was giving me exactly the same reason that they were giving, 100 years ago for why you want to pasteurize. It's just more efficient for the inspectors.
Yeah.
Now, today we have technologies that make inspection almost unnecessary. We have rapid testing for coliform and standard plate count and somatic cell count. And, our inspector comes once a month and takes a sample to test those things. But we actually test them every day on the farm, and it's very inexpensive. And I would think that a good program would be we just upload those every day to the state, and they don't have to come out and take tests or inspect or anything. So the technology is there now to actually keep tabs on all these little farms. And I actually am an advocate for inspection. I know there's people in our movement who don't want any inspectors, don't want any of that. But I think inspection is a good idea as long as it's carried out by people who believe in you and who believe in what they're doing. But it was always an economic reason. It had nothing to do with health. And I think now that we know more about raw milk, and how amazing it is, we're seeing the absolute waste and folly of 100 years of pasteurization.
Now, what do you think about lactose intolerance? A lot of people believe that they're sensitive to dairy, even non-lactose intolerant people. A lot of us have come to believe that we might be sensitive to dairy, and some people, when they pull it out, they feel much better. Is there a difference between raw dairy and pasteurized dairy in some of these cases?
Yes, absolutely. We did a survey of individuals diagnosed by a doctor as lactose intolerant, and we found that 82% of those could drink raw milk without any problem whatsoever.
Wow.
So I call it pasteurization intolerance. And I think most people are intolerant to pasteurized milk. I don't know many people who drink a big glass of pasteurized milk every morning.
What is it that changes as far as the composition and the digestibility? Why is heating it up in the pasteurization process so detrimental for assimilation and digestion of dairy?
Yeah, and it's different for meat, because meat actually becomes more digestible in a certain way when you cook it. Mm-hmm. But the proteins in the enzymes and all that, the immune compounds in milk are three-dimensional, very fragile amino acids, proteins, and they get all messed up, warped, and distorted when they're heated. And your body then says, emergency, emergency, this is a foreign protein coming in. These are all these foreign proteins coming in, and has to mount an immune response. And every single vitamin and mineral in raw milk has a special enzyme or carrier protein to make sure it's 100% absorbed. No other food is like that. Mm-hmm. And I've heard people say, well, the levels of vitamins and minerals in milk are low anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if 100% is being absorbed, they don't need to be that high, because you're getting everything. So you ruin all that instant nutrition for the growing child. You ruin the immune system compounds, the protective compounds. They're all ruined. And then your body has to try to deal with this to make the enzymes for assimilation and so forth.
So it goes beyond just the live bacteria. There's living enzymes in milk as well that help to digest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You take a food that's highly assimilable, highly absorbable, easy to digest, with numerous health benefits, and turn it into something that's extremely difficult to digest and highly allergenic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, because it seems like raw milk is much more expensive in the United States, especially. Where I live, nobody pasteurizes milk. I mean, it's for the mass-produced stuff that they sell in the cities, yeah, there's pasteurization, ultra-pasteurization. Industrial seed oils are everywhere, all over Latin America as well. But raw milk is readily available. People wouldn't imagine pasteurizing the milk. They just drink it raw. They make cheeses out of it raw. Sometimes they heat it up to make dishes and stuff, but the pasteurization thing as far as the countryside is unheard of. What would advice be to people who are maybe in areas where it's difficult to get raw milk or illegal? Are there ways around this? You mentioned something about pet food.
What we do. We sell it as pet milk. I would go to our website, realmilk.com, which lists sources in every state, and even states where it's illegal to sell it. It's there, coming across the border. And we also have an international list as well. You might want to send us something about Ecuador that we could post on realmilk.com. Cool. By the way, going back to the processing of milk, what they really want to do, and what's happening now in, I would think, places like Latin America, they import the bags of powdered milk, skim milk. First, they take off the cream, and they use that to make ice cream, because there's a big profit margin in ice cream. Then they powder the skim milk and put that in these huge bags and ship it all over the world, and then they reconstitute it with vegetable oils.
Oh!
Yeah, I know. It's totally gross. Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You see in the stores just these big plastic bottles of corn oil and stuff, and all the beers made from corn. I mean, traditionally, it's not like corn is bad. You know, they used to make a fermented drink from corn called chicha here. Those they still make, and it's kind of like a slightly more alcoholic kombucha. It's kind of sweet, and these are supposedly healthy gut flora feeding tonics, but the oil, the production of corn oil and the seed oils. This seems to be kind of the bane of our health crisis, doesn't it?
Well, my belief is that the number one cause of the health crisis is these industrial seed oils replacing the animal fats.